All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode 351. Today is the 4th of August, 2021. Let's go around, say hello to everyone real quick. We already got several really good, looks like some good questions on there today. And if you're watching live, go ahead and pop your questions on there while we're getting started here. Say hello, all that sort of good stuff. But start at the top of my screen and work my way down here. So Chris, you're up first. How you doing today?
Doing good. Just made it back home in time. Was out most of the day. So yeah, glad to be here.
Very nice. Cool. Marco, how are things going with you today?
Rainy season. Rainy season.
It's tough.
Much like the dry season. Much like every other season in Costa Rica, since we don't have season. But it's good, man. Busy with a lot of stuff. A lot of entity research. For those of you who don't know, who have been like outside of the web in the past, I don't know, year or so, it's all about entity. That's the game we're playing. We're trying to build the best entity, not according to some third-party metric that you're getting wherever it is, not according to one piece of software that you run and you don't really know how to run it. No, the best entity according to what Google is comparing your entity, which we don't know. But what we can do is fill out the variables that we do know, that we understand, so that we expand the database to what we want the database to include. And since nobody else's entity includes what ours includes, we become the, let's say, the data set that everyone else is compared against versus our data set being compared against something that you can never achieve. And so it's really interesting how you can, John Mueller will tell you anything and says that you cannot optimize for AI. And I mean, what is it that we do? What's code, what's schema, if not optimizing for the semantic web? What's working with entities in content, if not optimizing your content for the AI that's going to come in and take a look? It's not only the natural language processor, but there's a lot of other algorithms at play. I'm not going to go into that right now. It'll take forever for me to go into each one. BERT, Elmo, there's 4 or 5 different ones at play that are measuring the content in a different way and extracting different things from the content. Natural language, Google's NLP being but one of them. And so what is it that we're doing? What do we do? Do we just, okay, you say we can't optimize, so we just do nothing, or we just go and write whatever, use one piece of software? And like I see some people where all they do is conversion, and all they do is this, and all they do is that. And that's not how it works. You have to extract the best entities for the data set so that your data set becomes the best data set for whatever match it is. A query is nothing but someone looking for an answer, correct? Some type of answer on the web. That's all it is. Whether it's a question or not, they're looking for some type of answer. So sometimes they're looking for education, whatever it is they're looking. And we try to give them an answer. If you become a problem solver in your niche, the person who people go to solve problems, Amazon solves a lot of people's problems. Just as WebMD solves a lot of, I mean, you're not going to go to them for an operation, but I know a lot of people who go into WebMD and look at what's going on in WebMD so that, you know, symptoms. Okay, maybe I should go see a doctor because I'm having this, that, and that. And this says go see a doctor. So maybe I should go see a doctor, right? So it depends. But if we understand our niche, or if we understand Google, not necessarily just the niche, then we know the process that we apply to whatever it is to get the results that we want. And I know I'm simplifying it, and you guys probably want it more complex, and you want it more difficult, and you want us to ask you to spend more and more of your money. That's not who we are. That's what I want people to understand. What we do is to try to get people results. We don't just want your money. Yeah, we do want it because we deserve to be paid for the time that we spend figuring out all this stuff. Like, I don't understand why nobody goes to a doctor and asks them for advice for free, but you try to catch them at a party, don't you? ask him for free medical. But that's not the way it works. You have to go to make an appointment, go to the doctor, see what the doctor says. He'll send you to a specialist, as a matter of fact, if he can't figure it out. And you have to go and you have to pay that specialist. And they may refer you to someone even more specialized to try to determine what's going on. You have to go to the lab, and you have to have sometimes x-rays or an MRI or all of these different things. We're in an industry where people expect us to give our knowledge away. There is no other industry in this world where people expect you to give your knowledge away. Like, how can people expect that? At any rate, we try to make it fair. We try to make it simple. We don't try to kill people with the prices that we charge. And I think that by far, our archives and our library encompasses just about everything that anyone needs to either build a business or to rank. I'm not going to say rank. Change that. To get results on the web. I've said my piece.
So you mean it's not okay for people to send you a Facebook message and say, I just want to ask this one thing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
that PM. Yeah.
Just the one
Sunday.
private message, which turns into multiple. And if you answer one, then you get them from everybody. And next thing you know, you're spending your entire fucking day answering private messages on Facebook instead of in a public forum like this, where it can benefit more than just one person.
Where you can benefit everyone. Right.
And then that's the good transition point. Then
Into
besides
this,
that, Bradley, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. And I don't mean to sound like a dick, but I get a lot of message requests on Facebook all the time with the people, just want to ask one thing. Right. And I just don't even reply to them for the most part because of that very reason, because it's like, it's a slippery slope. But obviously it makes more sense, in my opinion, to ask a question in one of the forums, right? So like one of the Facebook groups, or whether it's paid or free or whatever, or here on Hump Day Hangouts. That way, because remember, if you have that question, it's likely that other people do as well. And so by you sending a private message to somebody to get, an answer to a question, then they end up having to repeat that answer over and over and over again to multiple people in private messages, as opposed to answering at one time in a public setting that can benefit a lot more than just one person. So anyway, that's my rant. Things are good. I was away last week, guys. Sorry about that. I needed some time off for the first time this year. I took a few days off, and in the years previous to this, I would take off several times per year. This is the first time I've done it this entire year, and it will likely be the last too. So, but it was much needed. I got the rest that I needed and went right back to work on my book as soon as I got back. And I'm close. I've got 4 more chapters to write, and I'm at 15,000 words right now. So I'm really going to try to get it done by the end of this week. But
nice. Just to catch people up too who maybe haven't watched the previous episodes, what's your book all about?
It's basically a lead magnet for tree service contractors. It's how to grow a tree business and how to double a tree business in 90 days. And it's basically going through the 3 things that I do for tree service clients to get them to significantly grow their business in very short order. And I'm basically laying out everything that I do on a kind of a simplified version of it so that tree contractors can actually do it. But honestly, what the goal of that is to push more people into my funnel. So, but it is going to be a valuable book that if people actually follow the instructions in the book, will get results. There's no question. So
nice. Well, I have one announcement. We just got the VIP stuff figured out for POFU Live. So if you have not heard about or have not attended POFU Live, that is the Semantic Mastery Live event. It is going to be, again, virtual this year. You can find out all the details at pofulive.com, but it's the last weekend in September. We got ourselves and some other great speakers lined up. But again, you can find out all the cool details at pofulive.com. But the VIP event, what that is, we have the speakers, the event on Saturday and Sunday. And then on the Friday before, we have this VIP get together where it's just not one-on-one, but virtually it's going to be a small group. We're going to get to hang out. When we did this live, it would be, a meetup the day before. This is the same idea. Get to know each other, shoot the shit, answer some questions, but we try to keep it more on the relaxed side and get to know each other a little bit before we all go into the event, right? And we generally have heard that people like that. They feel like they get a little bit more out of it. They're able to do the meet and greet, get to know people ourselves, but the other attendees as well. And what we're going to be doing again this year is going to be kind of a hosted brewery walkthrough. So if you're in the US, We're going to be able to ship you the beers. It's the same restrictions as last year. Unfortunately, we can't ship alcohol internationally with this, but we're going to have someone who I know personally who knows a lot about beer, who's going to be able to talk us through that and also be able to select some really good ones and send it out to you. If you're outside of the US, you can of course still join us. Let us know and we can get you a ticket. And what we can do is, spot you the difference. Just contact us on the side. If you're outside the US, we'll rebate a small amount so you can go out, grab your own beers, and then just join us for the event. You'll still get the walkthrough with the hosted event and get to do everything else. But we'd love to have you join us. So check that out, hofoodlive.com. That's coming at the end of September. And I highly suggest grabbing your tickets. They're at the lowest price you can get them right now, and they will be going up again soon. So we reward people who take action. So if that sounds like something you want to do, grab your tickets. And other than that, guys, anything else you want to cover before we get into questions?
No, just that the virtual beer tasting was fun last year. I enjoyed that. It was a lot.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
I've got to say too, not like talk down our own event, it was kind of like, well, we've never done a virtual beer thing. Like, is this going to even be fun? Like, well, we'll try it. It sounds cool. It was a blast. Got really good feedback from everyone too.
It was a lot of fun.
It was fun. The guy was knowledgeable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me get right into it then. I'm going to grab the screen. And it looks like we're going to start with Eddie B today. Question, got my SEO shield and link building package all underway, ordered my first press release and also a wiki link. Curious how to best use them. Press release, should the links and anchor text link to my GSite or directly to my money site or something else like an ID page? I recommend that you use press releases to link to a GSite's a good target. ID page is a good target. A GMB website, if it's for a local project that you have GMB for, and you've published the GMB website, GMB map URL, all of those are good targets. No, I don't recommend building directly to your money site unless you know what you're doing. So honestly, if you've got these kind of questions, you're better off just posting or linking directly to one of your tier 1 entity assets, as we just described. That would be, I'm sorry, it says you asked for 3 links. So I'm a bit lost as to what to do with them. And you don't need to do 3 links, by the way. Just because it asks for 3 doesn't mean you need to put 3. In fact, depending on what your overall goals are going to be or what your kind of longer term plan is, if you're going to be daisy chaining or stacking press releases, right? So essentially siloing press releases. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to Semantic Mastery YouTube channel and search press release silos or PR silo stacking, or any one of those types of terms, and you'll see a webinar that I did with Marco about how to stack or silo press releases together. And if that's what you're planning on doing, which is very, very effective, it's very powerful, it's the best way to use press releases in my opinion, then your first press release should probably only have 1 outbound link. So select what you want to power up. Again, an ID page is great. GSite page is great. GMB website is also another really good target for that, so that subsequent press releases that you publish can link to that first press release and really power up that 1 link. Does that make sense? So that's the recommended way. Before I move on, Marco, do you want to comment on that, or anybody else?
Yeah. 2 links, right? The first one should go to whatever the target is. If you have not selected a target, then use a link shortener like the MGYB shortener so that you can later change the destination of that link. If you have a paid plan in the MGYB shortener, it allows you to change the link destination. So say you're working and you want to power something up, it's not ready yet, but you know what the URL is going to be or where you want it to go eventually, you can just set it to wherever you want it first. And then you can go back and change it. In fact, your daisy chain can all be MGYB shortened links. It adds power. They index. The MGYB shortener itself accrues power on the server because we have Dedia steadily building links to it. So you can accrue a whole lot of power on that daisy chain through the MGYB shortener also. Do not link directly to your money site, please. Do not, unless like you've been around for a while and you know exactly where you want it to go, you know the exact anchor text that you want on that, and it's going to a page that's optimized for that to receive that link. It can take it Because a lot of times you'll link build directly to the money site, and all you'll do is crash the money site, and you won't understand why. And it's because Google is reacting to garbage. You put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. That's the results that you're going to get. You're better off amplifying the power through the SEO shield. You'll get better results. I mean, from what I've seen from other results and all the tests that we run, it's much better to amplify it. As far as your ID page, yes, by all means, link build to your ID page. You don't necessarily need a press release for it, but you can build links to your ID page. Press releases, the press releases themselves become then a target for link building, and it'll filter links through that MGYB link that you control. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this, with both a press release and a wiki link and the SEO shield that will protect your money site, that will keep you from link building directly to your money site so that the money site stays pristine. It builds links naturally over time, and you're powering up actually your tier 1 assets. Then you get into WordPress, Blogger, and everything else that you can build links to that's part of your tier 1 branded, that then powers up over time, and it will actually help your content to rank over time.
Right on. The next question was Wiki Link, best way to derive power from this, use my top level keyword as anchor text in my money site link. In my opinion, and this is the way I prefer to use branded anchor text for a wiki link. And again, I haven't done many wiki links with keyword anchors. I typically just do. Sorry, I just had a call coming in. I typically just do branded anchors on wiki links, but that's my take on it. What do you say, Marco?
Again, it's a page that you can shorten the page, the whatever, because we generally place a link on a Wikipedia page. It won't be an entire Wikipedia page for you, but a link within that's relevant to your website. So again, shorten the link, build links to the shortened link. You're protecting the Wikipedia page so that it doesn't get hammered by a bunch of spam all at once, and you can power it up that way. And it's relevant to wherever it is that you decided to make the destination of that Wikipedia link.
Yeah, because you can swap it out at a later date in case anything were to happen. So
exactly, you can just cut it. I mean, you can do a 404 with that link. Or you can just eliminate it from MGYB, from the shortener.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question was in regards to theme mirroring and content tuning. Number one, do I need to first set up all the right keywords in my money site menu architecture in silos first before doing a theme mirroring on the GSite and the Gdrive directories, and before purchasing a backlink order focused on one or more themes or silos? I'm not 100% sure. That question is awfully wordy, but figure out what your silo structure is going to be on your site first. Yes, that would be a yes for that. As far as GSite and Gdrive directories, no. So once it's always start with your money site, right? Whatever structure you build in your money site, then you want to try to duplicate that. And it doesn't have to, I know I read your question earlier, and you don't need to worry about like it having the exact same URL structure and stuff like that. That's not the point. It's the way that you stack the content, right? And the way that you internally link within on each platform, right? So for example, the way that you stack content on your money site, you want to duplicate that same sort of structure on your GSite, even though you don't need the same URLs, like the same slugs and all that. You don't need all that. That's not the important point. The important part is to stack the content in a similar fashion and to have the same sort of internal linking structure going on. Does that make sense? And then the same thing occurs with your drive stack. So your folders within, right? You're going to have your branded folder as your main primary folder. And then from there, you would end up having whatever silos are on your site. You would have internal or subfolders, top level subfolders, right? That are within the main drive folder, branded drive folder, that are going to have files inside of each subfolder that are going to be optimized for the keywords within that keyword set for that particular silo. And the way that everything's internally linked with inside a drive stack is different than what we're talking about, because, Marco's called that the spider silo or spider web silo. It's different because every file links to all the other files within the drive stack. So where you're going to want to spend your time is kind of on the GSite, theme mirroring within the GSite, and doing, mirroring the internal linking structure on the pages within the GSite that you've got on your money site, right? So that it's similar internal links. And then likewise, externally, outside of the SEO Shield stuff, your GMB assets, if you're using GMB, you can silo posts, and also press releases, like we just mentioned in the previous question. You can silo press releases as well. So you want to try to mirror your main money site's architecture or structure across every one of those other platforms. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm going to start with number 2 first, because you cannot mirror or copy or
The URL
clone
structure.
the URL structure or the slug. So you can't do that. How important is it to have the exact same structure? What we mean by that is you want to clone the silo. So if you have whatever category so if your website is about gold and you have a category that's gold futures and you've written posts supporting the gold futures category, you want to take that and you want to mirror it on the GSite. So you want to create an inner category on the GSite that's gold futures. So it's gold.com, whatever, sites.google.com, gold and futures. And then to that, you're going to add whatever you did on the money site, the silo, copy the silo. Go look at Pet Food Patrol, what we did on petfoodpatrol.com, on how we built our silos there. And you'll see the structure that you need to use both on the money site and on the GSite. It's out, it's public. We're showing it publicly. Go look at it, because you can get it right from there. You can get the GSite right from there. Now, it is important in the Drive stack itself to have an inner stack that focuses only on gold futures and that interlinks only within that gold futures folder for best effect, so that you're driving from that gold futures folder into that gold futures page, into that gold futures silo, pushing over to your gold futures silo on your website, focusing on the main entity, supporting entities and related entities, and a named entity, if there is one, meaning that there's a Wikipedia page that you can work into this some kind of way. Extracting entities is really important. I mean, just the way that you have to set up the content, the way that you have to do it now is really intricate. You have to be a scientist. You have to be really go into the lab and take a look at that content and how you set it up, because doing that with schema and setting up the silos, then building links into it, is going to have an effect that nobody else is going to mimic. Like, your competitors will have no idea what it is that you're doing or how it is that you took over from just simple things. Well, I'm not going to say simple, but from just doing the things that are recommended for you to do as you're working this out.
So question number 3, which should the money site also theme mirror the GMB products and service categories? Thanks. Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I found that if you have multiple categories for your GMB that are, and they're relevant, obviously you don't want to be adding on non-relevant categories to your GMB. But yeah, there is something to be said for that. I've started playing around with that a bit myself, because with tree service contractors, in the past, I had created separate silos, like tree service being like the top level keyword, but I would set up separate silos for like tree trimming, for example, and tree removal, right? So those would be 2 separate silos, but those all really fall under tree service, right? Tree service is the silo, and in tree trimming and tree removal and stump grinding and a whole bunch of other services kind of fall all underneath that. They're synonymous. They're all part of the same set, keyword set, essentially. But then there is a separate category in GMB called arborist and tree surgeon. And so that's a whole nother category where you can, there's different services that can kind of fall underneath of that. So I started playing with that actually with some of my own assets. And when I changed even some of my longest term projects, or the projects that I've had for a long time, I went back and reworked silo structure. And I've seen significant improvement on some of the organic rankings by mirroring the category structure that I got in the GMB. Now, keep in mind, these are sites that have GMBs as well. Like, in other words, they have locations that are associated with Google My Business. So I found that to be actually very, very powerful. I think it's going to vary though, because typically you can get a lot more granular with the type of silo structure and categories and such on your own website. But, I think there is something to be said, again, from some preliminary testing on my own, to kind of mirror or model the category structure that Google My Business can give you. And again, I've just started kind of messing with that within the last few weeks on my own, and I've seen some significant improvements in organic ranking from modeling the GMB category structure that I have on the GMBs. It didn't really help much with maps ranking, which is interesting, probably because that was already kind of baked into the GMB itself, right? The actual Google My Business profile. But as far as the organic rankings, that and among some other things that I've been doing, I've noticed that when I kind of simplified my silo structure and got rid of tree trimming and tree removal silos, which are two separate silos, and moved them all underneath kind of like a flat site structure, which means they're all part of tree service, then I've saw a significant improvement in organic rankings. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that was my attempt at it. So you want to comment on that before I move on?
Yeah, I don't see how closely you can theme mirror the GMB, especially the services, because interestingly, Google messes around with services. You'll see them come in and out. So all of a sudden you'll have a long list of services that weren't necessarily added by other users, but they are recommended services, or there'll be changes and added by Google. And then you'll see that they've been extracted from there, that they're no longer there. So it's simply, to me, because I don't know, I don't work in GMB, it's the AI going in there and taking a look on which one fits best, and it's giving it categories and taking away to see which one would be like the best recipe for that GMB. It's really interesting how that's taking place right now. And I don't think like trying to mimic that on the website or theme mirror that on the website every time that Google decides to give you a change is not going to make any sense. To me, I mean, you can go deeper and broader on your money site and add more information, but not necessarily the way that the GMB gives it to you. Although focusing on the products does have a great effect on and the categories, by the way, does have a great effect on not only organic, but some map rankings, depending on how necessary that category is to, I don't know if that even makes sense, depending on how well that category fits your niche. Because sometimes there's a hard fit in there. You get in a niche where there's no exact fit.
Yeah, and to be clear, when I was talking about categories, as far as the services, yeah, and I've noticed, because I started flip-flopping which URL I put in the website field of a GMB. If I had in the past, I always used the money site URL for the website and the GMB listing, right, in the GMB profile, and then I would publish the GMB website and often put that in the appointment URL field. And not everybody has that, I understand that, but more recently I've swapped it out. And even if there's a money site for a GMB, project or a project I'm working on, a business, a client, a lead gen asset, whatever, even if I have a money site, which most, 95% of them do have a money site, I've been putting the GMB website URL in the website field in the Google My Business profile, and in putting my money site page in the appointment URL field. And I talk very specifically about why I do that in the mastermind. I'm not going to talk about it here, but what I found is that Google pulls a lot of those services in. When you go into your Google My Business dashboard and you see that there was suggestions made or edits made to the services, which is what Marco was talking about, and you'll see they're like, it's in like an orange text.
Yeah, something like that.
You can either accept all of the edits, or accept all the changes, or you can click edit, and then it will allow you to go through and delete some of them or actually change the wording and all of that. I've noticed that when I had the main website URL as the Google My Business website, like in other words, in the website field of the profile, then it would pull keywords from that page that it was linked to. But then if I swapped it out and put the GMB website URL as the website for the GMB profile, then it would go find keywords that were listed on, and sometimes, usually there's overlap anyways, but I found that I think what Google's doing is actually looking at the page that is linked to from that website URL field and pulling entities or keywords essentially from that page. But it's interesting because, as Marco said, sometimes there will even be suggested services that haven't been mentioned on the page, which is interesting. And I found that to be interesting. It's not always the case, but sometimes they'll be in there and you'll go back and look at the page and be like, well, where the hell did this come from? It's not mentioned on the page. So, but yeah, I was talking about more on the category level, not the actual services, but it is interesting to see that how Google itself will just come in and start adding different suggested services to your underneath a category in your Google My Business profile. Okay, moving on. The next one says, my WordPress blog was creating attribution links in the RSS feed in the case of syndicated content. Yes. Back to money site posts with no follow tags. I assume this is a big mistake and a loss, and I've just fixed it in the entire feed, which will help going forward. But should I go back to all the past syndicated posts to fix each link? No, because no follow links are still valuable. So don't worry about that. That would be an enormous amount of, well, depending on how many posts you have. But even if you only have like 5 posts like that, still, that's a lot of work to go back and edit all those links manually. Just leave them. No follow links are still good links, guys. You can do more with follow links or do follow links, but certainly, but no follow links are still valuable to have. So I wouldn't waste the time. You're better off just moving, going forward, finding other things to work on. That's my opinion.
You should be producing content.
Yes.
On an ongoing basis. And since you are, no sense in going back and changing all of those. It's too much work.
That's right.
Just keep producing that content. You've changed the links to follow, and that's all you need right now.
Wow, we're almost out of questions. Look at that. So, okay, guys, if you got questions, post them, because if we just wrap up early, I mean, if we run out of questions, we'll wrap up early, which is fine. I got a lot of work to do anyway, but just if you guys are standing on the sidelines, biting your tongue for some reason, don't. Go ahead and post your question.
By the way, I've got a storm coming in. So if I drop out, it's because the lightning took me out. The Google gods took me out.
That's it. All right. So the next one is, should the anchor text in the RSS attribution link be the post title or the blog name? I heard you speak about that over optimization, but not sure if the post title would do that. No, that's fine. Again, the only time you really have to worry about that at all is, well, the way I have always talked about it. And if you're using our syndication applets for my FTTT, those, it's hard coded now into the attribution link is actually hard coded into the applet, so that you don't need a plugin that does it. If you do have a plugin that does it, you probably you'll see redundant attribution links, right? And because again, it's been coded directly into the RSS app or to the IFTTT applets. But where I've talked about you can over optimize is typically what I do is, and again, like if we use the Yoast RSS attribution kind of template, which is this post or the post, and then it would be the post title, anchor text, actually linking to that post URL, what first appeared on, or was first published on, or was originally published on, or whatever. And then it would be a link back to the home, essentially the homepage of the site with the site name. Or you could hard code it into the attribution to where it would be like a naked URL, right? So URL anchor. There's a number of things that you can do, but that is what I always suggested doing. So I usually kept that format. So the post URL would have the blog post title as the anchor text. And then if I would also include a link back to the homepage as part of every attribution link, then I would either have the brand name or a naked URL anchor. Does that make sense? And so if you're doing that, then there's pretty much no chance of over optimizing, no matter how many times you syndicate, right? Because it's again, the post title anchor is typically a longer post title, right? And it just makes sense. It's a natural way to link back to a post that's titled that way. Same goes for your homepage. If your homepage if all you're doing is anchor text as a branded anchor or a naked URL anchor, that's pretty much normal. So like there's really very little chance that you could over optimize unless you were doing some sort of like exact match keyword brand name, which is kind of rare, in home services, though you see that a lot. But even then, like I said, it's unlikely that you're going to have any problems, because typically the link back to the homepage should be no followed, in my opinion anyways. I would only keep the follow link for the post title linking back to the individual posts. And that's just because over time, again, it starts to look unnatural if they're always getting links back with do follow links to the homepage. So I typically would keep those as no follow, and then put the post URL, like I said, have the title is that. And then last thing I want to mention about that is really the only way that that you really have to worry about over optimizing if you're doing multi-tiered syndication networks. If you're just doing one branded syndication network, there's really no chance to over optimize on any particular anchor with your attribution link, provided that you do it the way that I said, right? If you were syndicating the same post across multiple networks, then you could run into potentially some over optimization issues. But since you're really only posting, at least with the initial syndication network that we provide, there's three main blog platforms: Blogger, Tumblr, and WordPress. And those three, just getting 3 link backs to each post with the post title URL, or excuse me, as the anchor, is not going to over optimize any one of them, if that makes sense. Comments on that?
No, as a matter of fact, 3 to 5 links back to each blog post isn't going to hurt anything.
Right.
Even if it's exact match, it shouldn't, and I don't see how it will. You'd have to do just a whole bunch, like Bradley said, on a tiered syndication network where now you're getting 12. There's a total of 12 that you'd be getting back. You don't want to do that. But 3 to 5, 2, if you're doing it the way that you're shown in Syndication Academy, there's no need to.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is, hello there. I have seen an offer on the internet that says they will make a local business schema that updates automatically once the corresponding GMB gets more reviews. Is it actually possible to pull information from another source page in the schema? If so, how? Probably. I mean, I'm not sure exactly which service you're talking about, but my guess would be that the schema code is injected or inserted into the page dynamically through some sort of JavaScript, so that essentially the schema code is being hosted and, you know, hosted on that service's server or whatever, and that they're just serving the schema remotely via JavaScript or some sort of container, kind of like Tag Manager would do. And so therefore, if they're pulling in, you know, how the number of reviews that automatically ups or dynamically updates whenever new reviews come in, then it could automatically update through their own service the schema code. I've not used any of those. I do use Schema app. I have been using that for, well, damn near a year now for just kind of coding, but I don't use it to deploy onto the sites. I know there's some services out there right now that will do that. They'll deploy schema onto sites for you. I don't personally like those because you're kind of married to those services at that point. I've kind of taken the you know, Rob's lead on this about, you know, I might use Schema app to create the schema code, but instead of having Schema app deploy it to my sites, which is possible with Schema app, I just copy the JSON code and then paste it manually into the header of each page. That way, if there's any, you know, again, I'm not married to using, I don't have to always use Schema app, if that makes sense. That's just an example, but that's probably how they're doing it. And that would be my guess. Any input from you on that one?
No, I totally agree. That's the way it needs to be done. You have to have a way to have it inserted, to have, first of all, crawl the GMB to find the new review, to bring it back, and then to update on your page. So it's a scrape and then show through JavaScript. I don't see any other way or else it has to be manual. There's no other way that you can read the review, right? That you can go and scrape the review and bring it back.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't see why it can't be done. I don't see.
Okay, so the next one, silly GMB, is MGYB shutting down. I received multiple emails from MGYB, but not sure if spam. Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to handle this one right now. Marco, do you have a kind of a canned reply for that, or Adam? Somebody?
Yeah,
Sure,
I mean, we're restructuring it. We haven't decided how it's going to go, exactly how it's going to flow, but all incoming orders, all existing orders, all future orders will all be fulfilled. There's nothing to be concerned about, nothing to worry about. You're still going to be able to get your orders in. Adam will send that emails on how you can do that. There's a coupon that's available. I don't know if it's available right now where you can order. So we will fulfill everything. And once we have a better idea how it's all going to work, then we will make an announcement and you will have the new way or the better way or another way to take care of your SEO shield orders or link building or whatever it is that you would like to order.
Yeah. There we go. Good enough. Any other comments on that?
No, not really. I think just, yeah, if he saw the email, which he did, it's not spam. We put in there just what Marco said, just looking at how it's going to look like moving forward, that we've got time to take these orders for this week, and then all orders will be fulfilled. It's no worries there. And just want people, though, if you want to get that order in, now's the time, because while we're doing this, we can't guarantee that, hey, we're going to offer X, Y, and Z in 2 or 3 weeks or in 3 months. We're going to be figuring that out. If you want this stuff now, go order it, get your order in before the week's out.
There you go. Okay, so Aaron asked, Bradley, are you going to white label your book? No, it's specifically for my own agency, to build my own agency. And not only that, but it's also specific for tree service contractors. So, I don't know how many other tree service SEOs are out there. There's a few, there's no question, but it'd be a very small audience. So, you know what I'm saying? Like a very small demand for a white labeled tree service marketing book. So no, it's not going to be white labeled. It's specifically to grow my own agency. But when it is ready, which, first I got to finish writing it, and then it's got to go through an editorial process, and then I've got to get it published. And I've got a couple places already that I'm going to have be published on, and I probably will have a physical version for it as well. But when I do launch it, and we get on Amazon, for example, certainly I'll have like a coupon code to get it for 99 cents or something like that. And I will share it with you guys then. And it would be something that I would recommend you guys perhaps model for your own book. Because I think I think it can open up a lot of doors, and I'm spending a lot. I joined a 7-day book challenge with Jarvis, which is, Jarvis is the AI writing tool, Conversion AI, it used to be called, but now they renamed it as Jarvis. And there was, it was silly me. I thought that I could join the 7-day book challenge and actually have Jarvis write a lot of the book, which was totally the wrong way to look at it. And because honestly, like I use Jarvis a shit ton for writing blog posts and things like that, for content for clients and all that. It's great. It's fantastic. But when you're trying to write a book, like a how-to book specifically to sell your own services, and that's essentially what it is. Although it's very valuable, and there's going to be a lot of information in it that, if followed, can get tree contractors results. I couldn't allow the AI bot to write that. It has to be in my voice. And so honestly, other than helping me to kind of flesh out the outline slightly in the very beginning, I spent the first 2 days just doing pre-work. After that, I've written literally every single word personally in that book, and I'm at about 15,000 words right now. So it's been a very, very, very lengthy process. I didn't work on it much at all while I was off last week, but I've got about almost 3 full weeks into this book now, and I've still got another 4 chapters to write. So anyway, once it's ready, guys, I will definitely make an announcement and do something to allow you guys to get access to it. If for nothing else, for $1, if not for free. And that'll be good to hopefully get some reviews from some of you guys, number one, but also, like I said, you could model the kind of format and what I did there for your own businesses. And then, create your own niche specific book, or however you want to do it. I'm industry specific, obviously, but you could probably do something more generalized if you wanted to. So
yeah, about people wanting AI to write everything for them, that's not how it works. You'll still see, even if you use like the most sophisticated natural language processor that there is to help you write, you'll see that it makes mistakes. You'll see that it throws sentences in there that makes absolutely no sense. And unless you have the human interacting with it and kind of correcting things or making them flow better, it's not going to be written the way that it should. And it's never going to be in your voice, because you're using AI instead of your voice. So yeah, you can take a template and flesh it out, but let that be you fleshing it out. Don't let the AI be the one that makes all the decisions on what should be written, how, when, or where. We're using now, after today, 7 or 8 different pieces of software to analyze content, not only the templates, but the entities, the supporting entities, the related entities, and to analyze other content so that we can get the best mix of content, better than we analyze obviously the top 10 search results to see what co-occurrence is one of the big things that we're focusing on. So we analyze the top 10 for co-occurrence. So where in the top 10 are the same words appearing, and what words are these, and how can we focus the entity even more so that we incorporate all these different things. So again, it's now, and at some point it's going to get ridiculous. I've already said that we are not going to incorporate any more after this, because at some point it's too much analysis, not enough writing. But I want it to be just so sharp for the bot that when it comes in, it's the best content by far. And you can't do that with just AI, which is why writing, and as a matter of fact, for Pofu Live, my presentation is write your own fucking book. That's what you need to do. And nobody can speak for you but you. People can quote you, people can paraphrase you, but nobody can say things the way that you do.
Right on. And yeah, I mean, I get that it's easy to get caught up in using too many tools too. My team is down. We're using 4 consistently to produce content, and we've got a pretty good process down that's efficient. It's effective. It's working quite well. So, all right, moving on. The last one, or excuse me, not the last one. This was the last one. Regarding tag silos in the training that Bradely taught in the MGYB process training, which is helpful for building out location or city tags. Is a tag silo a modified simple silo, and therefore you still use WordPress categories? And do you still read? No. If you go back through and watch it again, and again, I can cover this a lot more in depth if you were to come join the mastermind. I'm happy to. I've talked about it a lot in there, and I can go through it again. But you're using tags. So remember, tags is a taxonomy, but it's not a category, right? So it's not the same. It can produce similar things in WordPress, and you can structure it similarly, but it's not quite the same, because a tag is a tag, right? So like a tag, when you assign a tag to a post or a page, if you have a plugin that will allow you to do that, then however many posts share that tag, then that tag archive page is like it's like a category index page, right? It's an archives page. Whether it's a category archive or a tag archive page, it's basically an index page that will show all of the posts that share that same tag. So as long as you understand that, then you can use tags to create a silo, right? It's kind of it's still a silo, but it's not in the traditional sense, because it's not a category and a post structure. It's using tags. And so again, I talk about how you can do that. Really, the only time that that's necessary is if you are doing for like a service area business. That's why I started using that kind of a structure. And you can overcomplicate it really quickly, by the way. So you want to keep it as simple as possible. But what I'm saying is, like, if you have, topical silos or service-based silos, but then you also want to have location-based silos. So it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So which should be your top level? Should it be service-based silos, and then you have subcategories as location silos? So you would be duplicating subcategories across multiple top-level service silos, right? If you got location 1 and location 2, and you've got two main services, then how do you duplicate location 1 and location 2 as subcategories of service 1, and then duplicate those location 1 and location 2 as a subcategory of location 2? Does that make sense? It creates some it causes conflict with URL structures, and essentially like the URLs within WordPress. WordPress will just automatically do some funky things to your URLs. Now, especially if you're using physical silo structure, which is permalinks, the category / post name permalink structure. If you just stick with virtual silo, which is just post name permalinks in WordPress, then you can get by with still duplicating like subcategories across multiple top level categories. And it will create some funky category URLs if you were to look at the full category URL, but to the end user, all they're going to see is domain.com / post slug. So it resolves or reconciles a lot of those potential funky URL issues that occur with WordPress. So the way to overcome that was to just keep it simple and do service-based silos, period, as far as traditional silo architecture, right? And then I was always using tags for to create location-based silos. And you could do it at the hierarchy. Like, for example, if you want to, let's just say, like, for a tree service business, then all they do is they serve one county, but that one county has 5 municipalities or locations, towns, census designated places, perhaps city, whatever. So there's different locations within that general county. Then you could have on each service-based post, right? So each post, now how do you add location relevancy? Well, you could add the county as a top level location tag, and then perhaps the city name as a tag, right? Let's say you got 3 main services for your company or the business that you're optimizing for. And you have 1 county and 5 sub-locations within that county. Then essentially you could have that, service plus county name as a tag, as a top level location tag for that particular, service-based post within that service number 1 silo. If that makes sense, right? So then you could have service plus city name for each individual location name if you wanted to get that granular. So, and if you wanted to make it just location-based silos without having any sort of service relationship to those location-based silos, you would just omit service plus location name and just do location. Then what happens is you would have, like, for example, if you just had a county tag, then if somebody were to go, or if you were to go to that tag archive for that county name, so, let's say Culpeper County, for example, that's where I live, then all of the posts from all services for the entire that have been assigned to that county tag would all show up in there. And there's certainly benefit to doing that. Like I said, keeping the silo structure as simple as possible is what I found to be the most effective, honestly. If you start trying to overcomplicate the silo structure, you can very quickly destroy your internal linking power, like how you direct internal link flow throughout your site. And I've got a case study that I had started as a project, but I overcomplicated that exact sort of structure that I was just talking about with tags, overcomplicated it. And I've just, that site has always struggled to rank organically. And like I said, more recently, I started playing around with flattening sites out and making them as simple as possible. And I've seen significant improvements on that, because you can get really, really, really specific as how internal link juice flows when you do it with a much simpler site. And so again, like I talked about this in the mastermind, I've got a project that I started about almost 2 years ago now, that I had overcomplicated the tag silo build on. It was testing something and it never panned out. I hoped it would work, but it never really panned out. So I'm going to restructure that back to a much simpler format. And I expect to see significant improvements from that site, like I did with one of the other projects that wasn't as complicated as this one. But again, I flattened it out. So to answer your question, no, it's not the same, because tag page, you could essentially still redirect tag archive pages to specific things, but I don't know why you would do that. The tag pages themselves can become significantly like powerful link building targets. When I say link building targets, I mean use your SEO shield, your tier 1 entity assets to link build to those, potentially tag pages. But then you could always link build to those tier 1 assets that are linking to that page, and you can really power up. And again, I always use tags as location silos, and I kept the traditional category structure for service categories, which would be topical categories, in other words. So I don't know if that was as clear as mud or what, but hopefully that made some sense. All right, last 2 questions, guys, and we're going to wrap it up, and that's just really good timing because we're just about out of time. Vance says, is there any SEO value putting timestamps and multiple URLs in the description of a YouTube video? Yes, there's huge SEO value in that. In fact, it's really interesting. If you put a keyword in front of a timestamp on a video, sometimes like Google will actually, like I've seen it happen in Google search results, position 0, like haven't seen it recently, but you know how sometimes a video will be real big and show up at the very top of search results? I don't know. Again, I haven't seen that recently, but I've seen in the past by just adding timestamps, a keyword with timestamps, that sometimes a keyword search will trigger a position 0 video. because that keyword was linked to a time. And so essentially that video will show up in search results. And when clicked on, it immediately starts at that point where that timestamp was, and it ranks for that keyword. Does that make sense? Again, I haven't seen that in a minute, but I don't really focus on video SEO at all anymore because I always just buy traffic from YouTube for video stuff. But when I was doing a lot of video SEO stuff, there is absolutely value in that. Any comments on that, guys?
Yeah, I haven't done video SEO in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been at least 3 years probably for me. But yeah, there's value in that. Not only that, but just think about the value for your users too. It's certainly helpful to have timestamps for, especially for longer videos. If they're real short and you're just doing it for SEO purposes, play around with it. It's not going to hurt anything. But if it's longer form content, then just from a user standpoint, having timestamps is beneficial. That's why we have them in our Hump Day Hangouts, the full replays. Lastly, is ordering Google Map gigs, is ordering Google Map points gigs have any SEO benefit? Yeah, they can. I've tested with a couple of those too, because I know you can go on Fiverr and get some of those like just crazy intricate map gigs that are on Google My Maps. But honestly, probably the best way to do it would be what was taught in RYS Academy, seriously, because I've played with a couple of those those Fiverr gigs for what you're talking about, Vance, and I've not, from that alone, I haven't seen much movement or any movement for that matter, but you can do some stuff with that. Like you can hammer the shit out of those with backlinks, for example, like kitchen sink spam, and that can help. But play around with it. I've not really had any significant results from using those, not any more than what I can do with just normal like GMB optimization stuff, if that makes sense. So any comments on that one?
No, I mean, we used to do a lot of that when we used to really optimize the My Maps. There's other things. We get more power at just putting everything together. I guess there is some benefit, but you could do a whole lot more before getting that granular, before needing to do that. It's only when you need that, but just to get that little bit extra power, that you should try all of these different things. First, get the foundation together. First, get that power accruing the way that we show. And then once you've done that, once you have the basics in and you get power flowing the way that it's supposed to, then see what else you can do. Because by that time, when you've done the schema correctly, when you've done the content correctly, when you've interlinked everything correctly, and you link build into it, that should be enough. Yeah. And it should be, then it's just a maintenance type of thing to keep pushing it up, bringing up more keywords. We see it happen again and again and again. We did a case study in the Heavy Hitter Club where we showed just a change in schema and entity tune content, and it went crazy for the silo where we employed that method. It's just insane the kind of traffic that you start, or the rankings and traffic that start coming in.
Right on. Well, thanks everybody for being here. That was really good timing. We're just about out of time anyway, so we'll see you guys next week.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.